Now to Africa. Nearly 400 civilians have been killed and 550 wounded in fighting between insurgents and Ethiopian-backed troops in the Somali capital of Mogadishu just since Thursday. This according to a local human rights group. The toll from the Elman was the first comprehensive count of casualties from what aid agencies are calling the worst fighting in Somalia in 15 years. Nearly 50,000 people have fled Mogadishu in the last 10 days, according to the UN Refugee Agency. A total of 96,000 people left their homes during February and March. Ethiopian tanks, artillery, and helicopter gunships have fought against guerrillas armed with machine guns, missiles, and rocket-propelled grenades. The guerrilla forces comprise fighters allied to the Somali Council of Islamic Courts and clan militias who are opposed to the transitional government and the Ethiopian occupation. A lull in small African Union peacekeeping force in Somalia of some 1,200 Ugandan soldiers has failed to stem the violence. While the 4 days of fierce fighting subsided after a truce was negotiated Sunday, hundreds more Ethiopian troops have been seen arriving in Mogadishu over the weekend. Salim is a columnist for the Daily Nation in Kenya and a former spokesperson for the UN mission in Iraq. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about what's happening in Somalia, also in Iraq. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace.
Media in the world reported that the Islamic Courts Union had brought a high level of stability to Somalia, and they had done so without the massive
I take my life. At the same time in South Africa, people dying in Nigeria. For freedom, for food they struggle in Somalia. For freedom, for food they're starving in Africa. Revolution, she's knocking on our door. In silence, she will knock some more. Revolution won't scare them away. The people are the big army, I said. Revolution.
Revolution by Luko Ajafi from his CD Passion. We'll link to his website at ours, democracynow.org. This is Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Our guest is Salim, columnist for the Daily Nation in Kenya, former spokesperson for the UN mission in Iraq. Joining us in our Firehouse studio for the few days he's in New York, then returning to Kenya. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here, Eddie. Thank you so much.
Talk about what's happening in Somalia today.
You described the terrible scenes that are going on in Mogadishu. I just want to add that this is not only a terrible war, but also the most lawless war. It violates clearly the invasion by Ethiopia, the UN Charter, the support of the US and the attacks by the US violated the UN Charter. But in addition, there are two explicit UN resolutions by the Security Council that this violates. The UN Security Council resolution in December said there should be no troops from regional neighboring countries going into Somalia as part of a peacekeeping force. And yet we have Ethiopian troops there not as part of a peacekeeping force. It's also turned the whole region into a giant Guantanamo Bay. Human Rights Watch reported that over 100 people were kidnapped in Kenya. Kenya, the most stable and a very law-abiding country in Africa, was forced to kidnap suspected supporters of the ICU, the Islamic Courts, and to hand them over to Somalia, which in turn handed most of them over to Ethiopia, where they have disappeared. So this is really a terrible war, and another reason it's so terrible is because for 6 months last year, from June to December, as reported by Democracy Now!, as reported by the New York Times, BBC